It's midnight and you're watching Nightline with me, Mohammed, Ahmad, Hamdan. The headlines. No sabotage or engine failure in 66 crash. And government launches website to combat allegations by Sulu claimants. We begin with this headlining story. The Malaysian government's declassified 1977 investigation report on the 66 tragedy in 1976 found that there was no proof of sabotage, fire or explosion in the fatal plane crash which killed then Sabah Chief Minister Tun Fuad Stevens and 10 others on board. In the 1977 report declassified on Wednesday, the Civil Aviation Department's then Chief Inspector of Accidents, Omar Saman, said the probable cause of the crash was that the GAF Nomad aircraft had been overloaded in the aft or rear section. He said the aircraft had been maintained according to schedule, the pilot was licensed, and that the aircraft was loaded within the prescribed weight limit. The report said the aircraft, however, had a low centre of gravity position well outside the aft limit, causing the control column to run out of forward range when the nose pitched up when the flaps were applied to the 25-degree position on final approach to the Kota Kinabalu International Airport. Meanwhile, investigation of the company procedures indicated that the company did not ensure its procedures were as per the operations manual. The report also mentioned that there were no elements of sabotage or engine failure, while pathological tests on the pilot, Captain Gandhi J. Nathan, proved that he was reasonably fit at the time and not suffering from the effects of alcohol or drugs. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said the declassification of the report was completed on April 6 in accordance with Section 2C of the Official Secrets Act, OSA 1972. The report is available for viewing and can be accessed on the ministry's website. On April 5th, it was reported that the government had agreed to declassify the report on the plane crash, which took place on June 6, 1976, popularly known as the 66 tragedy. In the incident, Tun Fuad, who had been sworn in as the chief minister just 53 days earlier, died along with 10 others, including state ministers. Following the incident, the Australian GAF Nomad manufacturer and the Australian Department of Transport launched an investigation to prove that the crash was not due to mechanical issues. The investigation was completed some 4 months later, but the full report was not made public. Instead, it was classified under the OSA. Now, a website to provide information and updates on cases related to the self-styled Sulu Air's claims over Malaysia's assets has been launched by the government. According to Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Institutional Reform, Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said, the website would give the public clear and accurate information on the matter, while also countering the potential spread of fake news. Datuk Sri Azalina said the website will ensure that Malaysians and the international community are able to follow the developments of this case transparently and based on the truth. During the launch of the website on Wednesday, she said it will be constantly updated with any new information, documents and more from time to time in accordance with developments in the case. The website, which can be accessed at malaysia-sulukcase.gov.my, is the result of a combined effort by the Communications and Digital Ministry in collaboration with the Foreign Affairs Ministry and Datuk Sri Azalina's Ministry.
Saya berharap warga media dan rakyat Malaysia khususnya akan mengakses serta mengikuti kes ini dengan teliti, mengikuti sesawang rasmi Kerajaan Malaysia kerana pelaporan dan sebaran maklumat yang tidak benar dan tidak tepat perlu ditolak. Dan ini perlu dipegang oleh rakyat Malaysia supaya kebenaran kepada negara kita mendapat perlindungan demi kedaulatan dan keselamatan negara.
The site includes a summary of the historical ties between Malaysia and the Sulu Sultanate, while also displaying clear chronological narratives of any legal cases related to the claims. Datuk Sri Azalina added that the website, which is currently only available in English, would also see Malay, French, Spanish and Tagalog language options added in phases in the near future. Meanwhile, Nusantara Academy for Strategic Research Senior Fellow Professor Dr. Azmi Hassan has lauded the government's proactive steps to provide accurate information to the public and media practitioners about the ongoing arbitration dispute with the Sulu claimants. He said that the website set up by the government will help address questions about the legitimacy of the purported claimants and is expected to boost confidence among Malaysians that the government is taking the right steps to combat disinformation.
Yes, it is indeed a timely action by the government, not only to fight the disinformation coming out from the Sulu claimants, because the issue involves historical facts and they have twisted the historical facts in this matter, but more importantly, the disinformation given out by their lawyers, international lawyers in this case, hiding behind international law. So I guess this website will minimize a little bit our worries regarding whether we can safeguard our sovereignty and more importantly, whether we have to pay 63 billion ringgit to the Sulu claimants. So I guess the website will be a big help to boost the confidence of the Malaysians that the government is doing all the right thing to combat this disinformation and hiding behind the international law by these Sulu lawyers.
Moving on, the festive season maximum price control scheme SHMMP for Aidilfitri involving 30 items will be implemented for 16 days from this Saturday until April 30th. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub said the items included 6 types of goods from the chicken and egg category controlled under the maximum price of chicken and eggs, which came into force on February 5th last year. The items controlled under the scheme are local beef, except for tenderloin, imported beef, imported buffalo meat from India, mackerel, sardines, ikan tongkol and ikan demudo, tomatoes, red chilies, imported round cabbage, long beans, cucumbers, mustard greens, imported old ginger, imported red onion, imported potatoes, dried chilies, peanuts, coconuts and grated coconut are also on the list. Datuk Sri Salahuddin said the ministry did not plan to extend the scheme implementation period because 16 days was sufficient, adding that the prices of subsidised goods such as cooking oil, chicken, eggs, flour and sugar will remain after that.
Tempoh pelaksanaan SHMMP ini untuk Hari Raya Puasa ini 2023 kali ini adalah bersesuaian mengikut keadaan semasa, iaitu mewujudkan suasana menang-menang kepada pengguna dan peniaga. Pengguna dapat menikmati harga yang berpatutan dan peniaga pula tidak tertekan dengan tempoh masa pelaksanaan yang terlalu lama.
He said the list of items, the maximum price level and the scheme implementation period were determined based on several factors such as the weather, the global economy, foreign currency exchange rates, wage rates and supply and demand. He also gave assurance that there would be adequate supply of controlled goods in the market following engagement sessions with industry players and the Agriculture and Food Security Ministry, and as such, he expressed hope that consumers would avoid panic buying during the festive season. Former Perlis Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Azlan Man has once again been charged in court, this time at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court, with 5 counts of receiving proceeds from illegal activities amounting to 1.06 million ringgit. The 64-year-old pleaded not guilty after the charges were read out before Sessions Judge Azura Alwi. According to the charge sheets, Datuk Seri Azlan was accused of receiving proceeds from illegal activities from Sri Kedawang Travel and Tour Sendirian Berhad, Ideal Travel and Tour Sendirian Berhad, and one Abdul Rahim Halim who represented Ideal Travel. He was alleged to have received the money through 3 Maybank cheques and 1 CIMB cheque, which were deposited into his Maybank and CIMB accounts and in cash from Abdul Rahim. He is charged with committing the offence at the Jalan Tuanku Abdul Rahman Maybank branch in Kuala Lumpur, CIMB Bank branch in Putrajaya and Sheraton Imperial Hotel in Kuala Lumpur between February 19, 2014 and December 2017. All the charges are framed under Section 4(1)(b) of the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001, which is punishable under Section 4(1) of the same Law Act. The section provides a maximum prison sentence of 15 years and can be fined not less than 5 times the amount or value of the proceeds of the illegal activity or 5 million ringgit, whichever is higher, if convicted. The court fixed bail at 50,000 ringgit in one surety and fixed June 9th for mention. On Monday, Datuk Sri Azlan pleaded not guilty in Kanga to 5 counts of false claims amounting to 1.18 million ringgit between 2013 and 2017. The matter of whether or not former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Mohammed Najib Tun Razak receives a royal pardon is now in the hands of the Court of Compassion. Datuk Sri Azalina, who is also UMNO Information Chief, said that UMNO no longer had a part to play as all legal avenues had been exhausted and that the King has the final say.
Saya rasa bab ni apa-apa pun pada sebab tu kuasa Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Bawah perkara 42. Sekarang ni this is no more legal lah. Dia punya legal procedure tu dah tak ada. Now it's Court of Compassion. Maknanya budi bicara Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Jadi kita pun tak boleh paksa-paksa. Biarlah Yang di-Pertuan Agong membuat keputusan ke kalau dia nak mengkaji. Kita orang dah tak terlibat.
On April 7th, UMNO Secretary-General Dr. Ashraf Wajdi Dusuki said the party was appealing to the King to consider granting a royal pardon to Datuk Sri Najib. This followed up on UMNO Supreme Council decision to ask the King to consider granting a royal pardon to Datuk Sri Najib as per Article 42(1) of the Federal Constitution on April 8th.
How do Takaful operators work on protection plans related to floods and other natural disasters? Which general Takaful segments have growth potential in the coming years? Will 2023 be a better year for the general Takaful industry? Money Matters speaks to Takaful Malaysia Arms CEO Mohammed Sabri Ramli this Saturday 5 p.m. only on TV3.
There is approximately 11 billion ringgit in unclaimed money, WTD, belonging to the public as of March. The Deputy Finance Minister, Datuk Sri Ahmad Maslan, said the amount was out of the 14.1 billion ringgit received by the Accountant General's Department from companies or firms in accordance with Section 8 of the Unclaimed Money Act from 1977 until last month.
Kementerian Kewangan mencadangkan supaya pindahan ke akaun tak disatukan itu dipendekkan 5 tahun lah. Sebelum ini 15 tahun baru masuk ke akaun hasil disatukan. Jadi kita nak supaya wang itu tidak membazir begitu aja. Kita awalkan pada 10 tahun. Tetapi tuntutan masih boleh dibuat.
Datuk Sri Ahmad Maslan said that a large portion of the 11 billion ringgit in WTD has been invested by the government in fixed deposits in accordance with the Financial Procedure Act, and the interest earned is accounted for in the consolidated revenue account. He also said that from the fixed deposit, the government gained 250 million ringgit in interest and used the money for the people. The Employees Provident Fund, EPF, has refuted speculations of a crash crunch crisis building up in the retirement funds. It has also denied that the EPF Act 1991 would be amended to prevent retirees from withdrawing their savings. In a statement, the Retirement Savings Fund said it has always maintained sufficient liquidity to meet all of its obligations. It said the sale and purchase of overseas assets are a normal part of EPF's investment operations as one of its asset allocation strategies, stressing that the move was not for the payment of premature withdrawals. In fact, it said there had been a slow but steady increase in the EPF's overall foreign exposure over the years, even during the COVID-19 crisis. The EPF issued the statement to refute the speculation circulating via WhatsApp, which referred to an article titled "Bank Negara says Malaysians could run out of savings 19 years too soon," published by an international daily on April 7th. It stressed that what Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) has highlighted is the dire situation for retirees even before the pandemic due to structural issues such as low wages. According to BNM, the median savings for the 51 to 55 age group would have only lasted 5 years upon withdrawal at 55, and that has dropped to around 3 years after the pandemic-related withdrawals. The report further states that an average Malaysian would be at risk of depleting their retirement savings 19 years before death, with global life expectancy rising to above 77 years by 2050. The retirement fund also advised its members to only trust communications from official sources and not speculations on social media. Media Prima Audio MPA has maintained its position as one of the most influential and leading radio networks in Malaysia based on the latest GfK radio audience measurement survey, which was carried out in February and March this year. The number of average weekly listeners also increased to 5.36 million people, representing 1/3 of listeners in Peninsular Malaysia. Various initiatives carried out recently have contributed to the success, including introducing new presenters, organizing exceptional on-ground events, exciting campaigns, as well as fresh content. One of MPA's most influential Malay radio stations, Hot FM, continues to rank among the country's top 3 radio stations with 3.67 million weekly listeners, an increase of 320,000 listeners compared to the previous survey. Among the contributing factors have been the introduction of former Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin, as well as the Hot Hulur Wang Sama Pendengar HWSP campaign, offering 300,000 ringgit in cash to one lucky listener. Meanwhile, Buletin FM recorded 133,000 weekly listeners, with half of them having a household income of 3,000 ringgit and below, in addition to recording a 55% increase in the number of listeners among individuals aged 35 to 39. Molek FM, a radio station dedicated to entertaining and celebrating a wider audience in the East Coast, gained 542,000 weekly listeners, an increase of 12% or 58,000 listeners compared to the previous survey. In the meantime, Fly FM is the number 2 most listened to English radio station in Malaysia, recording 1,055,000 weekly listeners. MPA's only Chinese radio station, 8FM, recorded 423,000 weekly listeners. China records first human death from bird flu. This and more from the foreign front when Nightline returns. Onto the foreign front. The World Health Organization on Tuesday said a woman in China has become the first person to die from a type of bird flu that is rare in humans, the first known human fatality from the avian influenza strain. The WHO in a statement said that the 56-year-old woman from the southern province of Guangdong was the third person known to have been infected with the H3N8 subtype of avian influenza. The woman is believed to have fallen sick on the 22nd of February and was hospitalized for severe pneumonia before she died on March 16th. The flu had not been detected in humans before 2 prior non-fatal cases emerged, both also in China, in April and May last year. H3N8 is common in birds, in which it causes little to no sign of disease. Myanmar's military has admitted to carrying out an air attack on a community hall in the central Sagaing region that reportedly killed dozens of civilians, drawing condemnation from the United Nations and Western powers. At least 100 people were killed in the airstrike just before 8 a.m. in the Sagaing area in northwest Myanmar, making it the deadliest in a recent string of military air attacks. Reports say at least 20 children were killed in the strike and 50 people injured, with the death toll expected to rise. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres condemned the air attack and called for those responsible to be held accountable. About 300 people had gathered in Pasigi village to celebrate the opening of a local administration office where tea and food were offered, and which coincided with the start of the Tingyan New Year celebrations. Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party DPP on Wednesday has nominated Vice President William Lai as its candidate for next year's presidential election, choosing a contender who has been more outspoken on Taiwanese independence than incumbent Tsai Ing-wen. The 63-year-old had long been considered the front-runner for the DPP nomination to succeed Tsai, who is barred from running again after her second 4-year term ends in May 2024. Lai has long held that Taiwan could not attain a peaceful future by appeasing China and has urged the island's residents to unite against its authoritarianism. The announcement comes 2 days after China formally ended massive war games around democratic Taiwan that saw it simulate targeted strikes and practice a blockade of the island. Welcome back to sports. Fourth seed Casper Ruud is through to the third round of the Monte Carlo Masters, beating Botic van der Zandschulp 7-5, 7-6 on Wednesday. The Norwegian was a little bit rusty against a competitive Dutchman, saving a set point in the second set, before ultimately prevailing in 2 hours and 16 minutes. Ruud will play Jan-Lennart Struff in the next round following the Germans' 6-3, 6-2 win against 14th-seeded Australian Alex de Minaur. Alexander Zverev continued to rebuild his confidence on clay with a 6-4, 6-4 victory against Spain's Roberto Bautista Agut in the second round. Zverev broke for 3-2 in the opening set and held serve to take the lead in the contest before breaking again in the fifth game of the second set. Agut, however, stole the German serve right back to level for 3-3, only for Zverev to take the decisive break in the following game. Meanwhile, second seed Stefanos Tsitsipas barely broke a sweat to reach the third round of the Monte Carlo Masters with a victory over Frenchman Benjamin Bonzi, who was forced to abandon the match with a wrist injury while trailing 4-1 in the first set. Poland's Hubert Hurkacz, however, faced a stiffer test from Britain Jack Draper, with the 10th seed eventually prevailing 6-3, 6-7, 7-5 to advance into the last 16. After this breather, cops recaptured 2 Indonesian detainees who escaped. Thanks for staying with us. Police successfully recaptured 2 Indonesian male detainees who escaped on Tuesday while on their way from the Kota Tinggi court to the Ledang prison in Jalan Felda Inas in Johor. Kulai District Police Chief Superintendent Tok Beng Yeo said both men were found within 24 hours in 2 separate locations in Jalan Felda Inas, Kulai.
Yang pertama tangkap di Kebun Sayur Sengkang, Jalan Felda Inas. Dan banduan yang kedua pagi tadi telah ditangkap di Kebun Sawit, Taman Sabah. So jarak kedua-dua tempat tu lebih kurang 1.5 km lah.
Macam mana keadaan mangsa tu? Yang okey dulu. Keadaannya ada cedera ke atau semacam mana?
Masih dalam keadaan lemah ke sebab tak makan ke tuan?
Memang dalam keadaan lemah lah dan ada sedikit kejeraan ringan lah.
Doc said both prisoners had discarded their lockup uniforms and changed into jeans and t-shirts believed to have been stolen. He said police have opened an investigation paper under the penal code, which can result in a maximum prison sentence of 2 years or a fine or both if convicted. The detainees, 40-year-old Ricky Rinaldi, will be placed under a 4-day remand beginning Wednesday, whereas the remand for 36-year-old Samiruddin will be applied on Thursday. That wraps up this edition of Nightline. As we wrap up, let's take a look at rare manuscripts of the Quran, as well as jurisprudence and Quran interpretations are being showcased in Iraq's National Museum during the fasting month of Ramadan. The 80 manuscripts exhibited for the first time include specimens dating back to the 1st century of the Islamic calendar. I'm Mohammed, I'm Hamdan. Thanks for watching and selamat bersahur.